Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Startups on Demand, sponsored by New York Tech Media. Today I've got the awesome Amit Rapaport, co-founder and CEO of Compete, as my guest. They have been doing really awesome and amazing things, and they're essentially everywhere. You hear a lot about them in the media. I actually heard about Amit from one of my friends, Angela Rubinstein. She said, you got to check out Amit. They're doing amazing stuff. I was looking for strong female leadership to kind of interview and to get their take on how things are happening in the ecosystem. And I'm super grateful to have Amit on the show. Thank you so much for being here, Amit.
I'm blushing. Thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm awesome. So tell us, like, for the people who don't know you, if you can give us like a short brief or bio of,
Cool.
of you.
So yeah, sure. So Amit Rapaport is shared, the co-founder and CEO of Compete. Married, mother of 3 crazy boys. My husband, he's my co-founder and CTO. But I always say that, who has the private time when you're an entrepreneur, right? And yeah, Compete basically, to give you like the background about Compete and
yeah,
that? Cool. So Compete came from my personal pen as an HR. I worked at some very cool companies as an HR, mainly in the cyber domain, Palo Alto Networks, then moved to the small startup back then. Now it's a big empire as well, which is SentinelOne, yeah. And I felt the pain. I felt the pain that I didn't know how much should I pay for my candidates or, to my existing employees, if I'm overspending the company's budget, or if I'm underpaying and then putting myself at risk. Based on understanding that I didn't have the solution that I needed. And my great belief that you only live once, I've decided, okay, enough with this comfort zone. Let's buy the option and let's create the venture that I want. And that's exactly what I did.
Love it. So can you
together, by the way, I don't know if you know that, but together with my husband as shared, yeah.
Exactly. That was my next question, actually. So I wanted to ask, so if you can give us like a short, how did that happen? So you and your husband, you guys met at Palo Alto Networks. We talked about this previously before the interview. And how did it, so you basically told your husband, like, hey, let's do this. I have this idea. Or did he come up with the idea, or how did that work?
So no, he's an ex-engineer. I'm the brain behind, yeah. But the way it was is that, we always talked about how we want to do something together, right? To create something from scratch together. We really enjoyed the time, when Palo Alto, he was part of the group of he was the second engineer at Cyvera, which was acquired by Palo. So we're the biggest fan of like the startup vibes, right? And we always said that, okay, we want to do something together. I felt the pain and I just said like, okay, let's leave the comfort zone. And I took 6 months. Back then he worked at Palo Alto, sorry. Although I tried to hire him to SentinelOne, open brackets, didn't manage to do that. But yeah, that's a different story. But when I left Sentinel and I said, okay, let's take it, zoom out, refine exactly what I want to solve and how. And to be completely honest, when COVID hit, I had my eureka moment and just, as a first-time entrepreneur, I just called, very, very, naive 20 colleagues of mine. They all said yes. So like a typical bold Israeli entrepreneur, right? I just gave that promise and say, cool, the launch will be in 2 months from now. And dinner time, I just came to him and say, Jonathan, that you see in LinkedIn, but Yoni, that's the Hebrew name, Yoni, 20 out of 20. Fast forward, he joined this venture and started the company as completely bootstrapped,
Love it. So you said you're first-time entrepreneur, but you're also a first-time CEO, which is not the same thing, because you can be a you can be a first-time co-founder, but you can have you can be a COO or CTO or thing, but being the CEO, you're the face of everything. What does your day typically look like? Literally, I really want to know like the nitty-gritty things. Like, how do you manage your day? What to-do lists? What apps do you use? Like, how do you structure it?
Yeah, so you wake up very early. you go to bed very late, and in between, right? I think the main thing that I'm responsible for is, and that's what, the type of meetings and interaction that I'm having, right, is regarding, look, at the end of the day, I have the vision of Compete. I, together with Yoni, clearly, but founded Compete. I know what I want, like where I want to go, right? So set the tone, or set, not the tone, but set the vision. Like, that's what we need to hit, and to work with some brilliant people, to challenge me, and to make all of us better. And that's what you always like think about, and how I can drive the business further. Before we've started this conversation, right, you said how it's like to be backed by Tiger Global, and I share that it's all about execution. Like, you have the money in the bank or something like that, you get the term sheet or whatever, very, very exciting. But like a second after that, right, all you think about is, okay, they believe in me. I have like the most incredible customers. That's more importantly, right? Now it's execution time. Now I need to deliver the promise that I gave, right? With, the Israeli chutzpah, right? About how do you want to like bring that into the next level, to the next gen of that. And that's what keeps me up at night, and, keeps me busy all the time.
Okay, so let's say it's a Sunday evening and you want to kind of prepare your week ahead. How do you do that? How do you, like, there's so many things you have to juggle, right? How do you know what to prioritize, and how do you actually do it? Do you schedule it into the calendar? Do you write it on a to-do list? Is it in a project management software that your whole team has? Like, how do you guys do it?
So I know it's recorded, but don't tell everyone. Although I'm, a co-founder and CEO of a tech company, I'm very, very, very old-fashioned when it comes to like planning and stuff. Meaning, I have here my cheat sheet with, writing everything. That's why it's easy for me to track everything. Clearly, we have, our tools and platforms to create the alignment and collaboration between all different stakeholders, right? So nothing will fall between the cracks. But at the end of the day, what works for me is, my cheat sheet here, reviewing my calendar, prioritizing like on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, right? Yesterday, we just had a board meeting. You get out of the board meeting with new insights and thoughts about, okay, maybe we should change the plan that we thought, like, and which is, by the way, a great board meeting. That's the way it should be, right? You want to get out, like, you want to be smarter after the board meeting. So you're all the time reviewing like your plans, and is like, does it make sense? Yes or no? Yeah. And should we stick with the plan? Yes or no? So I have
and pivoting and being able to pivot and pivot fast is a strong indication of a strong team as well, right?
Well, I don't know how to do that like otherwise, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, if I will create a plan or business plan, financial plan, roadmap for the product, it doesn't matter, but it will be relevant only to what I think or what I wish for, and like won't get the feedback from the customers, from investors, from whatever, right? It won't be a strong plan, right? Yeah. And we'll find gaps between the plan and the actual, and eventually I'm creating this for someone, right? I want to bring value to the customers. I want to be like, I want VCs to invest and compete for a specific reason, right? So you need to review that all the time.
100%. You're coming from the industry, so you're coming and you're trying to solve a pain point that you've seen throughout your time in the industry. A lot of entrepreneurs come in from outside the industry that they are building a new startup, but you're coming from inside. After many years of working in the HR industry, what are some of the issues that you've noticed in the compensation and benefits model, and how are you guys solving it with Compete?
I think there are two layers of that. The daily pain, right, which is the first layer, which is how much should I pay? Like, I want to hire you as a backend engineer, as a data scientist, as whatever, right? How much should I pay? And that's the daily question that you need this real-time data. On top of that, what I felt working in Palo Alto and Sentinel-1, having, a lot of competitors and stuff like that, super, competitive landscape, right? Is that you need to understand the bigger picture, meaning, okay, if I'll say, Omri, I want to hire you, I want to offer you this offer for X amount of money, right? That will be your salary, commission, equity package. It's not enough nowadays. Nowadays, like, you need to get this bigger picture, the total reward, which includes, maternity leave, paternity leave, career forward. We cover, for example, in the US, over 80 different benefits on top of, the salary, commission, equity, because at the end of the day, we see this. That's how, companies are, they're becoming extremely creative, right? With how they hire or retain. And that's like a new, more holistic angle for that. So that's the daily layer. On top of that, I think at the end of the day, the R&R, their role and responsibilities in terms of, the HR is to be a true business partner. And for being a true business partner, it means, from my perspective, it means that you help with any important business decision, if it's regarding growth or reducing force or internal mobility or any kind of setting, the comp philosophy or any kind of something that and policy that guides, or defines the culture of the company, right? And we're not talking about, the small perks, which is okay, the 24 flavors of ice cream, which we had this year in Israel, right?
It's a joke.
Yeah. But we're talking about something more in depth and meaningful for the business. At the end of the day, 70% of company's budget is spent on its people, right? So by knowing your budget, talent, partners, everything, and to take smart, data-driven decision, and not just to manage, but to be able to predict, right? That's something that was extremely missing. I remember those, meetings that we had, both Sentinel-1 and Palo Alto, right? That, okay, we're planning for this amount of new hires, right? 2 months later, the entire company is prepared for that. However, surprisingly, all those headcount changes and movements, and you're running around in circles, right? So, and you can avoid that by relying on data and stuff like that. So that's the plan.
And using Compete.
Well, yes.
Awesome. So there's something that you said in the last few minutes that I want to kind of ask you.
Sure.
You talked about companies being very creative about their benefits packages and offering packages. Do you feel like some companies are getting a bit trickery in terms of kind of offering certain benefits or certain incentives that are clearly, that are not clearly in terms of the, of the employee's favor, but are actually in favor of the company in the long term? Do you see this kind of stuff from operating in the HR industry?
That's interesting. That's extremely interesting. I think, look, at the end of the day, it must be a win-win, right? Companies, the employer side and the employee side, they both understand that it needs to be a win-win in order to work well, right? because you have endless opportunities to work wherever you want, right? And I can hire any other like candidates, right? But at the end of the day, if that's a win-win, that guides employers to make sure that their offers, right, and the total rewards are not just for, okay, we want to be nice or we want to like do this or that, because it's meaningful to you, right? Or let's say the good companies do that, right? Okay. And we see that with our customers. Our customers are the one that truly care about their reputation, about are they being fair, right, with their talents, with their partners, and you see how they the evolution of the packages, right, of the components, right, to make sure that it's relevant and updated for for their partners, for their employees. We can see, for example, that many of the customers saw low correlation between annual bonus and performance, right? So they moved that budget into something that it's more meaningful to their partners, to their employees. For example, equity, health insurance, changed, the work from home policy and stuff like that, but updated their policy and compensation structure in order to be relevant to you, right? Again, as a win-win.
Interesting. So there's obviously you mentioned specific customers, but I'm just interested to know if it is a trend. So is it a trend? And you can tell me, no, Amri, it's only on specific, clients. Is it a trend that, employees prefer to have like a better healthcare plan and like better remote work features than their actual bonus? And is that correct?
Yeah, so the insight that I can bring are coming from the source, is coming from my users, which are the HR leaders and the finance team, right? But as shared before, right, the HR leaders, they care about their employees, hence they ask those questions. They collect the data and they share it with us, so they can be with the updated insights regarding, okay, what's new in this neighborhood, what should we offer now, or what is irrelevant, and maybe we should change that. And we clearly see a trend regarding that.
Interesting. Okay, let's dive a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about the product itself, about your service. So one of Compete's cutting edge features is able to show real-time view and spot on planning on the go. Can you walk me through how the technology works and how it, how, of course, you're not the CDO, your husband is, but if you can just give us like a broad overview of the tech stack, that'll be awesome.
And open brackets, he's not replaceable. Like he's one of a kind. So the way we do it is that we collect the data. You're asking about like how we collect the data and how we analyze the data and stuff like that, right? Just to
exactly
very cool.
The boring technical stuff that are boring for some people, but is very interesting to a lot of people.
And that's one of the challenges that we have, right? So the way we do that is that we collect the data, we pull the data from your HRIS and other platforms. The algo that we have runs over all the data that you shared, that we pulled, taking into account many metrics, right? Because at the end of the day, by trying to have this apple to apple comparison, right? If I'm a seed company and you're, IPO'd company, probably VP sales is not the same, right? So how do you make this comparison, apple to apple comparison? So the algo runs over, all of your data, takes into account many metrics, including, some that I can share. And then comes with the suggestion, which is, by the way, not just for the title, the suggestions for level, title, like everything, okay? And after that, clearly as a trust thing, you as a customer, you should approve that, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't just to blindly rely on the algo, because at the end of the day, you know, 99% accuracy, great, but what about the 1%, right? And it's all about trusting the data, right? So you want to make sure that the customer extra validated that, but less than a sec, the algo goes over that. So it's totally up to you to briefly review and start enjoying compete, basically.
Love it, and help compete. Let compete help you compete, right?
That's right.
What a trademark!
Yeah.
Awesome. So okay, so I think there's like tons of value in this interview for our audience. But to kind of conclude this interview, can we get a glimpse of what you can share of some of your product roadmaps and some key features that are going to launch soon, if you want to share?
High level, if you don't mind.
Really high level. Yes, we're talking in headlines here. Yeah.
I think I gave a teaser before, 10 minutes ago, but I think at the end of the day, compensation and benefits is just one pillar, one component from the total everything, right? Working as an HR or executive or manager or whatever, right? But think about the situation that you need to make any kind of call regarding promotion or comp increase or whatever. You take into account not just the comp and band, the benchmark, but you take into account many metrics and connect many dots, right? At the end of the day, I know the different dots that we need to connect, right? As you know, being in those shoes. And that's exactly what we're working on. Stay tuned. Q1 will be extremely exciting on that note. And we'll proceed from there as well.
Awesome. So watch out for press releases. Press releases. Awesome. So Amit, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and provide so much value.
Of course. Thank you.
People can check out Compete. It's competewith.com.
Yeah.
And you can follow Compete on LinkedIn. And do you guys have a Twitter account?
Yeah, but I'm not that active. So basically, no.
So LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn. Awesome, Amit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.